Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. Here are the stories making headlines across the continent. Uganda's LGBTQ community is facing worsening persecution since the country passed one of the world's harshest anti-gay laws 2 years ago, according to Human Rights Watch. It's sounding the alarm in a new report that accuses the government of committing abuse. Turning wasted energy into cash, well, digital cash that is, mobile Bitcoin farms look to make use of Kenya's electricity surplus to create digital currency. Lesser flamingos lose one of 4 breeding sites left in Africa. Sewage spills into South Africa's Camphors Dam leaves water so toxic that the pink birds are forced to leave it. Tens of thousands of the animals used to breed there. Thanks for joining us. It's been 2 years since Uganda passed one of the world's harshest anti-gay laws, and Human Rights Watch is now reporting that since it came into force, authorities in the country have committed widespread discrimination and violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people. The 69-page long report also accuses the government of deliberately trying to negatively shape public discourse about LGBTQ people in Uganda in the lead up to the Anti-Homosexuality Act being signed into law in 2023. We're joined now by Oyem Nyeko, who is a senior Africa researcher at Human Rights Watch. Oyem, thank you so much for joining us on the program. So, of course, we know that being gay in Uganda was already very difficult before this law came into force. Tell us what it's like to be gay or transgender now.
Yeah, so historically, same-sex acts have been criminalized in Uganda for many years. It's been the result of legislation that was passed by the British colonial powers. But what has happened since is that the Ugandan government has basically entrenched homophobia. They've legitimized it by passing this law in 2023. And they've basically made it such that people living in Uganda who may identify as LGBT or not live in fear of criminal persecution, but also of their communities attacking them because they think they may or may not be gay. So it's really just a climate of fear that people are living in Uganda.
And this report accuses authorities of using social media and dating apps, for example, to target LGBTQ people. Tell us more about that.
So basically what we found when we talked to people in Uganda was that they are being, they've met people online who they think may potentially be people that they want to talk to or explore relationships with, but turn out to be police officers in some cases who are trying to extort them, who end up actually extorting them at the threat of arresting them because of this law that criminalizes homosexuality. They tell them that, oh, we will take you to the police station if you don't give us a certain amount of money. And it's really the result of the law. So the law doesn't make it legal for people to be extorted, but because there's a law that says that if you're gay, you could be criminalized, a lot of people, including government officials, police officers, feel that they can get away with committing those kinds of acts against LGBT people.
And let's talk more about this law because, like I said, it's one of the harshest anti-gay laws in the world. Tell us what it really calls for exactly.
So the first crime that it creates is the crime of homosexuality. It is literally a crime, an offense to commit homosexuality, which basically is same-sex acts. If a man has sex with a man or a woman has sex with a woman. But then there's also other sub-crimes. There's if you have sex with somebody with a disability, for example, of the same sex, or somebody who is of advanced age. Some of those offenses now, in addition to a jail sentence, could actually land you a death sentence, which is what makes the law really, really terrible. Nobody should be sentenced to death because of a consensual same-sex act. But there's also other really vague and very problematic provisions, one of which is this notion of promoting homosexuality. And this is where people who are LGBT allies, people who work with NGOs that provide services to LGBT people can potentially be face reprisals, because if somebody accuses you of promoting homosexuality, whatever that means, it's very vaguely described in the law, then you could also be sent to prison.
And just finally, what's your message to the government?
Well, I mean, first of all, the government shouldn't be legislating hate against anyone based on their sexuality or any other characteristics. So they need to do away with this law. That's what we're calling on the government and the parliament specifically, to remove this law. But in the meantime, there needs to be a climate of acceptance and non-discrimination against all people. Nobody should be discriminated against based on their sexuality. And the authorities really need to promote equality in that respect. And so that's what we would really like to see.
Well, we should mention that Human Rights Watch did contact the government to comment on the report, but they didn't respond. Oyam, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Really great to get your insights on what is a very important topic. Well, let's take a brief look at some of the other news making headlines across the continent. The African Development Bank gathers in Ivory Coast to name a new leader. Among the 5 candidates eyeing up the top job are Senegal's former Finance Minister Amadou Hott and the World Bank's current Vice President for Budget, Dr. Samuel Mambo from Zambia. The next Commander-in-Chief will have to grapple with the threat of Washington cutting $555 million in funding to the bank. AFDB is the continent's top financial institution. South Africa offers to purchase liquefied natural gas from the United States over a 10-year period. The proposals is part of efforts to secure a trade deal with Washington. If it agrees, South Africa would buy up to 100 million cubic meters of liquefied natural gas per year from the US, the world's largest LNG exporter. The deal would allow Pretoria to avoid paying Washington tariffs on exports of 40,000 cars a year. Nigeria says it plans to build 2 major lithium processing plants this year. A $600 million lithium processing center near the border with Niger is slated for commissioning in the coming weeks, while a $200 million lithium refinery on the outskirts of Abuja is nearly ready. That's according to the country's mining minister. For the sites, which would largely be funded by Chinese investors, could help boost jobs, technology and manufacturing in Nigeria. It comes after significant deposits of high-grade lithium were discovered across half a dozen Nigerian states. Let's take a look at other world news now. Kenya has been producing more electricity than it needs, and now a new industry is stepping in to use that surplus. That's cryptocurrency mining using mobile Bitcoin farms. Companies are converting otherwise wasted energy into digital currency. Supporters call it a win-win, but questions remain about whether this new use of energy will benefit the country as a whole. Olivia Bizo reports.
These ordinary-looking containers are doing something unexpected, mining Bitcoin. Inside, rows of processors run day and night, turning unused electricity into cryptocurrency.
What we realized is by building these mining containers, we can go anywhere on the African continent and we can instantly monetize wasted energy. So it's never taking energy from another productive use. It's only taking energy that nobody else wants, and it's helping the energy producer earn revenue that they otherwise wouldn't get.
Just a few kilometers away, steam rises from the ground. This is where it all begins.
So this is actually what is normally channeled into a power station to run a turbine. This is the highest contributor to the energy mix in Kenya, giving us an energy percentage of around 40%.
This plant then converts geothermal heat into electricity, but not all of it is consumed. Many see using this surplus to mine Bitcoin as a smart way of avoiding waste.
As long as this doesn't, take away power from the general public, I think it could be something like that could be a game changer. And it could also lead maybe to the government subsidizing, the power costs through Bitcoin mining.
Crypto isn't just being mined here, it's gaining ground. The UN says over 4 million Kenyans, or 8.5% of the population, own cryptocurrencies. That's one of the highest shares in Africa.
Next, South Africa's Camphors Dam used to be one of only 4 breeding sites for lesser flamingos on the continent. But a recent series of sewage spills have poisoned its waters, and the pink birds have now become a rare sighting there. Noam Bashtika has the story.
Spring 2020, tens of thousands of lesser flamingos danced on the waters of Camphors Dam, transforming the artificial lake into a riveting spectacle. 5 years later, the majestic pink bird has all but disappeared from sight.
Just gradually, the birds, there were fewer and fewer. And that was it. I mean, eventually they just all disappeared.
For years, flamingos flocked to this lake in central South Africa to feast on spirulina, a blue-green algae that's one of the main elements of their diet. But the waters of Camphors Dam are now covered by a green sludge-like substance, the result of uncontrolled sewage spills that have made the lake too toxic for birds. A court order recently called on local authorities to clean up the area, but the municipality says it lacks the necessary funds, especially as tourism in the region has considerably slowed down since the flamingo's departure.
We are quite concerned. We know that flamingos attract tourists to Kimberley, and that one way of improving the economy and the jobs. So that is why this matter is urgent for us, very urgent in fact. So because it has a ripple effect on the economy of this city.
With less than 3 million lesser flamingos remaining worldwide, conservationists warn the species could become extinct in the wild if nothing is done to protect their natural habitat.
Well, that's it from all of us on the Eye on Africa team. Thanks for your company, and do stay tuned to France 24.
The population has doubled in the last 40 years. The impact is real. Overpopulation.
Life is tough. I'm a day worker. I sell bread from my cart.
Access to water.
We used to grow everything, rice, sugarcane, but those fields have shrunk because of water shortages.
While some are exploiting the country's last resources.
It's a non-renewable resource, and it also belongs to future generations.
Others are trying to think ahead.
We try to challenge the idea that having more children means you're wealthy or well-regarded.
Many are worried about the future.
What will they do once I'm gone? Who will take my place? Only God can help them then.
Egypt's overpopulation crisis on France 24 and France24.com.